Hi everybody, Avner Dorman is here with us to talk about the double concerto for cello and piano for the Ecstasis duo. Thank you for joining us here at Sewanee Music Festival.
Happy to be here.
We met how many years ago?
70,000? It was the Mesozoic age. No, 1993.
Oh my God.
3 or 4? Maybe 1994.
Three. It was the summer of 93. Yeah.
Yes.
And the story is that I was practicing Petrushka on some piano in some building.
Army facility.
Army facility.
No
way.
Yes.
Oh wow.
And you walked in and said,
Wow, you were playing it so amazing. That was so awesome. Like we had to like all be there on Sunday morning for the to count us or whatever they do. Whatever they do with cattle. And yeah, I had been there for a bit already. I think it was early 94 because I had been there for a few months already. So I started the Army in October, so I think it's
Wow, I did not know that.
and then you were just sitting and playing it. It was awesome. Wow, that's really great.
little did we know that about 8 years later, right?
Yeah.
We would meet outside the corridor of the interviews for the doctoral program,
Right.
and you would have to remind me of the story,
Right.
right? And then we spent 5 years in about
4. Yeah, 4 years doctoral program.
I understand that you got him to the classes. All the theory.
Good theory, yes.
And Natasha was also there, but a little before us, right?
Actually no, I came in 98 to 2000.
Okay.
Yeah. I think you got there before me, right?
Well, not for the doctoral program, I think, but
Yeah.
we're all doctoral students.
Julia
at the
doctors.
School, yes, doctors. So Dr. Dorman,
Yeah.
a double concerto.
Describe your symptoms.
Counterpoint, like everywhere.
We're craving a double concerto. Yeah, your double concerto was so wonderful. And what was it like for you when he said to you, would you write a concerto for us?
Like, of course, I really wanted to write a concerto forever, piano concerto. But then I thought this idea of piano and cello is like, it really hit a soft spot, 2 soft spots for me. Because piano is my instrument, and cello was my first instrument. And my first love of music was the love of the cello. And my son, who's like 3, he also loves the cello, and he has like a violin that we bought him, and he would like play on it and sing. He can watch the whole Bach first cello suite like 5 times in a row, the whole suite. All day he will sit and watch that. Yeah, he's just so like it's both instruments obviously have a very special place in my heart, and Eleanor and I have worked so much together, like recorded and played so much of the music. And so I was really excited about the idea. I thought it was really special. But then when I started researching other piano cello concertos, I couldn't find any. I found one somewhere that exists, but I couldn't find it. And then there's some inherent issues. First of all, with writing a double concerto in any case, because it kind of goes against the idea of a concerto to a degree. In a concerto, you have a hero and the group. So like your main character and the world, like in a Greek tragedy. Here you have 2 main characters and the world. In a way, concerto grosso is a little easier because it's a small group and a big group.
Right.
2 are company.
Problematic.
2 are company. So any double concerto is kind of tricky. And in this case, as I started thinking about it, I like first of all, there's a balance issue.
Yeah.
Which like cello and
We have no balance issue. I don't know what you're talking about.
like the best cello piano sonatas are problematic.
Yeah.
Every single one of them.
Yeah.
It's never easy to balance the 2 instruments because the cello is softer. And then with an orchestra, each instrument kind of wants a different type of support. So like the piano, like Rachmaninoff piano concerto, there's like a lot of orchestra. The cello concerto, you can't write like that because you just won't hear the cello. So it's much more sparse. Like if you, You know, if you look
Saint-Saëns
like,
concerto, very good.
yeah, or like even if you look at some composers who did both, like Prokofiev,
Yeah.
the cello concerto and the piano concerto are orchestrated very, very
That's
differently.
right.
It's the same composer. Shostakovich not so much. It's kind of light with the piano as well.
Huh.
Haven't thought about this before
Huh.
at this moment.
Yeah.
Well, I'll think about it. But yeah, like Saint-Saëns, the orchestra is very light, and in the
And the tutis, it comes out.
yeah, the second
tutis.
piano concerto is not like that at all.
Mhm.
Much more.
Yes.
But then I think there's a deeper problem
Yeah.
with the cello and the piano, which is that you guys like produce sound in such a different way,
Mm.
and kind of the strengths and the weaknesses of each instrument are kind of the opposite.
Mhm.
And I would say in a way that was the bigger challenge for me.
Oh.
Like how do I make this work when, you know, the piano is best as like a lot of arpeggios and big chords and can't hold a note for very long, but the cello, you know,
Lyrical.
is lyrical and singing, and it's the exact opposite in many ways. But I think ultimately that question, when I was able to get past this is a problem, it actually became the impetus for the concerto, where like there's two, like in a way, I think that's like the perhaps the biggest challenge of human existence, that like you wanna connect to another person,
Yeah.
and they want to connect to you, but you have like a different background, you have different strengths and weaknesses, you're different physically, like whatever it is. And so how does that happen? So in a way, when I'm like, oh, that's like a special connection that can happen here between the piano and cello.
And that's something that I think I picked up intuitively when we were playing. And I told you I think it's about Orpheus, right? And sort of the search for Eurydice in hell, and the opening, you know, to me it sounded like a harp, and then of course the cello sort of lamenting. And I really picked up on that sense of longing in the first movement, and it's so beautiful.
Yeah.
And my observation was that the opening of the first movement is so incredibly different from what we're used to hearing in a concerto. You know, the bombastic opening of Tchaikovsky, but even with lyrical concertos like the Bartók and the Rachmaninoff third, that you start with a beautiful melody. This is the complete antithesis to that concerto opening. I'm starting super softly with this line that sounds like a fleeting thought. It's not even a melodic line per se, right?
Yeah, so there's kind of a melodic line there, but yes, it's very, very subtle and
fragile.
Yeah, maybe that's better.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just went with my concept of the piece and wrote the piece. Like I know you've mentioned that you don't know another concerto that starts like this, and that's I think true. But it wasn't like
it wasn't the intention.
Yeah, I wasn't like I'm gonna find a way to start a concerto. It was like for me coming from the emotional dramatic angle is the way that I approach the
I
writing.
think that's maybe Natasha would talk about, like that's the thing that we really feel so strongly about the piece, the emotional impact of it.
Well, actually, one of the things that I love about playing with Eliran, there's so many, is that he's really attuned to emotion in music and what he wants to express and what he wants to find in the notes. And it was so easy to find it in your piece, and there were so many emotions. And I wanted to tell you that I think one of the many strengths for the cello part is that you have the best ranges for the cello. You have the very deep range, which we love to play on the C string, and it's so like thick and velvety. And then you've got really, really high, like a dream. You have high notes that also sound great. And there's, of course, there's some in the middle, but that you don't really hear so well.
I find it interesting you say this, and I have to credit my teacher in Israel, Yosef Bordanishvili. He actually taught me that about the cello. He was like, always write for the outer strings. Because they resonate so much better. It's like the low, exactly what you just described. Like this was a lesson. This was a composition lesson. I think I was writing a piano trio.
So should we take the two middle strings out?
In a way, yeah, that's what you end up hearing. It's like those very high notes, those Shostakovich high notes, right? And the very deep stuff.
Yeah.
But I wanted to ask you too, I remember at the very beginning stages, we were saying, oh, what are you going to write for us? And you said, I have an idea of a French sound. And I think he captures that
Yes.
in the first movement.
Yes. It really sounds like a Ravel. I call it the descent to hell, that section where it goes over pages. And it really feels like, the tragedy of the opening, sort of what I would say, grief of losing somebody or searching for somebody, and then we sort of open this door and we go into this, other universe. It's so beautiful. There's this shimmering arpeggios in the piano, and the cello line is soaring above it, and then there's sort of an illusion of finding that person, and then of course, not a happy ending. We don't, but it's the colors are really beautiful, very impressionistic. But also, I don't even know what harmonies I'm playing there because it's made out of what? What are those notes?
How did you do that?
Well, some things are secret.
Or we'll keep them a secret.
I did come up with a harmonic progression for that movement, but everything is actually like the opening. There's like this. Again, there's some harmonies. There's like a scale going on at the top of your arpeggios. But yeah, I came up with this harmonic progression, which is very elaborate progression, kind of a little bit distorted harmonic series. So like if you take the harmonic series and it's not like the pure theoretical harmonic series, like a real harmonic series when you like play on the cello and it's like has a little bit of and you like to look at the
pitches,
the harmonic series, it's always a little bit like twisted. So the progression is kind of around a concept like that, and that's why it sounds like a different world, because it's like we're inside like cello or something like that, like inside like a vibrating body.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think you described the drama very well, because I think the tragic thing is not like in opera or in theater, it's not the unrequited love. That's tragic.
Right.
More tragic is when is Romeo and Juliet, when the two of them want to connect and they can't. And over there, it's external that they can't connect. But it's even more tragic if it's internal. It's like like you want to connect, but you just can't. Like something is holding back, and it's not from the outside world. It's not your parents that you can be upset with, or society, or like it's a real
mismatch,
like a real emotional challenge. Like it might not even be a mismatch. It might just be like like your own, like a person's own emotional barriers that are causing the tragedy. And I think that is the deepest tragedy. And that's, to me, that's the first movement. It's like, that's why it's a deeper tragedy, because it's not like there's no one to blame.
Yeah, and no one to fix it.
And like
I don't want to discourage our viewers to
the piece goes on.
The piece continues.
Yeah, exactly. So
and there's some good moments. I have like that tune that sounds to me like a Shir Mizrahi, like a Middle Eastern song, right?
Right. So like then like that then like for me again, the characters try other ways. So instead of being stuck in their own, like, so the second movement is a dance,
right?
Because when you dance with another person, figuratively or literally, that's a type of connection that gets around some of these things. So that's the second movement is very sort of mostly positive and encouraging and not stuck in that world. So it doesn't actually stay stuck in that world.
And then I also feel like with the third and fourth movement, if the first and second are very personal, very intimate, the third and fourth become much more collective, right? So the third is a passacaglia based on a 12-tone road that sounds to me like one of the most lyrical and beautiful things. So no shade to 12 tones, but it really is a beautiful melodic line. It appears in the bassoon, in the horn, in the cello, of course, and then it comes into this epic scream that for me it sounds like what I feel about global warming. Like if we don't do something quickly, we're going now. There's a cataclysmic sort of energy to the movement, and then that energy transforms into the fourth movement. To me, it sounds like a march, maybe to the Supreme Court, or maybe something where we unify our energies to get some action or some resolution or some basic freedoms. But I think what I'm trying to say is that I think there's a beautiful journey from an incredibly intimate space in the piece to something that is really collective and really energizing. Maybe my favorite feature in the fourth movement is that I'm in 5/16, and Natasha is in 6/16, and the orchestra is in 5/8, and so people are doing completely different things, and somehow it all comes together, and it's a little bit, again, the human condition. Like, we're all different, but we're coming together in a coherent purpose.
Right, and I think you said that earlier today, and I think that's a really good like analogy or metaphor for what happens in that movement. In a way, it's more realistic than a Beethoven symphony, where everyone is together all the time. You know, like you have to that's a military drill, right? Like where in normal life do everyone does the same thing at the same time all the time? It's like ballet, orchestra music, and military drill.
So that's why you like polyrhythms.
Yeah, it's part of why I like polyrhythms, because the different elements retain identity, and that's, for me, that last movement is all about that. It's all about, it's a celebration. It's like you said, it's very exuberant, I would say.
And
but
it's also not about us.
Right.
I think the fourth movement really is
exactly.
not about the two solos. It becomes sort of, we are this nucleus that leads this march.
Right. So you kind of and you kind of found a way to be there together, but to retain your identities, and for everyone else to be able to retain their identities too. Mm-hmm. So to me, ultimately, this piece is actually very positive.
Yeah.
Because
happy ending.
Yes, it is an empowered ending.
That's
I would
right.
say an empowered ending of it's fine. It's fine to be a piano. It's fine to be a cello. It's fine to be a clarinet. It's not like there isn't a problem with that. You are different.
Diversity is strength.
Exactly. In a way, it's that.
I wanted to point out for the listeners that every section has an important role. I like, for instance, in the last movement, I love that percussion. And the little flute solo thrown in there.
You definitely have these distinct characters coming in and out of this, Marchostinato that is happening in the piano and the cello 16th notes, and it's really riveting how the whole thing starts from this sort of ethereal nothingness and becomes the other extreme, this really forceful, poignant purpose.
Yeah, it's a good point.
So I guess my question is, do you feel that when you sit down to write something like this, that this is the nucleus, the idea is the nucleus, or you have a theme or something running through your head, like, I think that would be cool for this piece? Like, what came first, the idea or the music?
I think it's a funny thing. We've had a lot of conversations about this a long time ago, and as much as you are always have been very focused on the emotion, I've always been very focused on the structure and on the mathematical element of music. Like that's how I have always conceived things. But I think when I write, it always starts from the emotion as well. So the emotion, it's kind of emotion comes up, and then all this
ideas,
brain stuff does all the math around it, and it becomes notes. In a way, just like a conversation, right? You feel happy and you say something nice to another person. You feel upset, you say something, negative. It's the same thing, right? It starts with an emotion. It's not usually you're not thinking, I'm gonna be happy now.
Right.
I'll think this thought, it will make me happy. So it starts. So the opening of the concerto, which was the first thing that I came up with, in a way it's very mathematical. I can show you all the math there. But it started with me having the feeling of what this piece is. And it just came out. It just came out. Of course it filtered through an intellectual, these intellectual structures that I've worked on for decades. But I don't have to, I think that's the beauty of having done something for a long time, is that all the technical aspects
Happen
are just
naturally.
there,
Yes.
right? They're just there.
Yeah.
So you can actually like embrace the emotion and kind of go with that. Of course, like with the last movement, you know, just notating that, like just figuring out how to notate it
Yes.
was in and of itself like a
Challenge,
a
yeah.
challenge, yeah, a big challenge.
Different meters on top of each other.
Like like it's in 5/16, but the bar is really a beat.
Right.
And it's like, so like I thought maybe it should be quintuplets because it's
See. Oh.
I tried that and it was awful.
Uh-huh.
And then I said, well, it's all like most of the bars are arranged right now in fours.
Yep.
I was like, maybe it should be in 4/4 with quintuplets. Didn't look right.
Mhm.
Like, well, maybe it should be in 2016. That was
Oh, thank God.
Glad we did not see that score.
that was a dumb thought. And so I ended up with a 5/16. But yeah, I had no idea. Like,
Time.
I thought it would work, but there's kind of a risk to take when you write a movement in 5/16 and the bar is 160.
So wait, so did the Barber Concerto come into play at some point? Because the Barber finale is also in 5, but it's noted as 5/8.
Well, that's a different thing. That's a very different thing. No, like this idea, and then on top of that, you have like threes, and I apologize that a lot of them are 6. It's just I was learning how to notate that in the software. So in the orchestra, it's already triplet. For you, it's 6 over 2 bars because I couldn't figure out how to do it.
The challenges of being a musician.
And I finally posted on the forum, and someone explained to me how to do it.
Oh, wow.
We're all learning, huh?
Yeah, no, it's a tricky thing because, you know, how do you do 3 and 5? Like 16/10 makes more.
Okay.
It's an easier ratio
Huh.
because both of them have the 2. 3 and 5 have nothing in common.
Right.
So,
Wow.
but yeah, I think so. Obviously, there were a lot of like, second movement as well. Like, how do you notate? Like, the way I chose it works. We know now, but again, there were many ways to notate that music.
I think I want to commend you because I think what really speaks to me in the piece is the fact that it's incredibly emotionally captivating, but it's also incredibly different from what we're used to hearing in classical music. And I also think it's an incredible, I don't know what the right word, but it really reflects the time that we're living in and what we're experiencing. And I don't know if that was a conscious thing on your check, probably not. It's just the reality we're living in.
Yeah, it's like, you know.
But if there's a spectrum of, I was joking with Natasha yesterday, how negative does music get? Do we, like, somebody dies, or unrequited love? I mean, we have a lot of those, right? But to go, it's like the piece really goes where that ends and starts there, in this incredible loneliness, and it really gets worse from there in the first movement. So I guess is that you think of the spectrum of available emotions? I mean, do you think, am I going to take it a step further, or do you think it's just the reality that we live in that allows you to create those worlds?
I don't know, maybe it's just my own like emotional range. Like, it's a very personal thing for me to write music. Like, obviously I'm not like trying to express everyone's situation. I do think that over time, our ability to express through music expands. So, like, Mahler is a lot more expansive in the emotional range than Mozart. Like, what was tragic for Mozart was not tragic for Mahler. And when you are in a Mozart opera, when you watch a Don Giovanni, it is tragic. But if you put that D minor, or the beginning of the D minor piano concerto, if you go there and you put that next to like the last movement of Mahler 9, it's not particularly tragic. So I would say that I think what we have available as expressive tools expands. And since I don't discriminate against tools. I'll write in a key, I'll write with traditional harmonies, I'll write with spectral harmonies, I'll write with a row, I'll write with serialism. I like whatever is available that I could use, I will use to express myself. So I have a bigger range. I would say, like, I think in a way, it's more that, it's like the adagio from the end. Like you said, it's a third movement. I think that first movement is like, it's like an ending adagio of Mahler's symphony.
Yes.
And
Yes.
then
Yes,
a
absolutely.
postlude to that. Like
And then we go from that point.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Like
That's
if I had to say like where is that movement, it's like
It's like a finale, the Mahler ninth finale.
finale. Yes, which I feel like he took a while to get to as well, because in the Fifth Symphony it doesn't end with that movement.
Right.
And in the Fifth Symphony
It's
like kind of a big letdown after that. The famous adagio. That's like cut it. But in the ninth he left it like that. So in a way, to me, that movement, not stylistically, obviously, there's not much, but in terms of where that movement is, and I'm not the only one who's kind of taken that as the beginning point of like, that happened.
Well, I just have to say that I think the transition between the end of the first movement into the second is incredibly difficult, because you really have to go and open to a completely different possibility. The opening of the second movement with that beautiful, Middle Eastern song-like theme is so exuberant, it's so fun, it's so flirty and vivacious, and the first movement ends with this sort of question mark. So there is a huge leap between the two.
Yeah, and I think, like again, if we think historically that, like, we are living through some tragic times, and we've lived through some other tragic times, and obviously our grandparents lived through some extreme tragedy. Like, what do you do at the end of it? Or what do you do when you feel that low? Like, what's the next step? And I
You
think,
have to bring yourself up.
yeah, life just dictates, go out and dance, life continues, right? Like, it's not, there's more.
There's a new melody somewhere. For
Right, and there's like kids and like life goes on. Like it's not like these existential moments like that first movement.
It's like the end.
They are very deep and they are very meaningful, but then they pass. And you're like, well, what do I do now? Right? Like, what do I do now? And I think in a way historically, like Mahler or Penderecki, like they left us with these moments. Like, well, what do you do now? And so I think that first movement is basically like that, like an ending of a very tragic symphony. And what now? Like now what? Now we
We flirt again.
Yes.
What, Natasha? What's your favorite part of the concerto? What are you enjoying playing there?
I think the third movement particularly pleases me. I love the richness of it. I love how you start with this one theme in the cello, and then you
Which, by the way, we nicknamed the Gandalf theme.
yeah. I feel like a
Like
old wise man with a beard. And then you allow these other instruments to take it, and I love especially when doing the horn solo. It just spreads out like a Brahms, some kind of Brahms.
Bronze intermezzo in the middle of it.
Gorgeous, yeah.
What about like in terms of the cello techniques that you're using?
Well, there's that really cool place in the middle of the second movement where you have do the ricochet off the street of the sextuple. All the students in the orchestra was like, "When you play that?" I'm like, "Wow!" And of course, we love that kind of texture, the technique that I suppose maybe you heard in the Dvorak concerto. Yeah, it works really well. Yeah. What about you?
I can speak now for an hour about the things that I love, but if I had to pick a few, I definitely love the chords that you give me, because they're not like anything I know. I mean, a little bit Berg with the chords that are made out of fourths. You go, okay, but there's it's like Israel meets Brahms meets Avner meets our generation, like in this like. In a chord. Like, I don't know anybody else who can write this chord, and for me to feel so connected to this chord. And I know, it sounds silly, like, oh, connect to a C major chord, to D minor chord. Yes, but there are flavors to certain harmonies, and to me, we talked about it a lot, 20 years ago, but people ask like, why do you compose? I said like, no, I've never composing, I don't need to compose. Because you're really writing, if I had to come up with a sonority, I think that that's where I would try to head towards. The Middle Eastern stuff. Like anytime I get to do something like that's my way. I mean, you play a Beethoven concerto, you're not going to find your Middle Eastern roots in it. But to go on stage and to play that theme and go like, yes, that's where I come from. That's the richness of my culture, and I get to do that, and then it gets to get this more universal meaning because we're now playing it in America with American musicians, and they're bringing their energies. I think that's maybe my favorite thing. Play that tune with everybody, and then the orchestra has to play that theme, and they have to get into, I think, demonstrate some belly dancing for them, right? To get them in the mood. But yeah, I think that's my favorite. So we're going to do it 2 days from now, Sunday.
Sunday, July 10th at 3:30.
And we're going to do it on October 15th in Fredonia.
8 p.m.
And hopefully we'll do it many, many more times again.
Yeah.
And thank you for writing an incredible masterpiece. It's really an honor and privilege to go on stage, give birth to this beautiful, beautiful concerto. So thank you.
Thank you for playing it so incredible. Thank you. Really amazing. Yeah. And the orchestra here and Robert Moody.
Incredible. Incredible.
Yeah, learning it so quickly.
Yeah. So.
Thank you for joining us. Come to the concert.